On today's show, more over-unders with myself and Robby Kalland. This time, the Atlantic Division is on tap, and we'll get into all of that right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1817 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday here in the middle of October. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. Begin the season with a big return at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I also want to tell you at the top of the podcast to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Please check out the podcast and subscribe to the show anywhere you find your podcasts. That includes Spotify and Apple, as well as other audio platforms. Plus, we are on YouTube. Please like this video as you're watching it, comment there, and please subscribe and tell your friends about the podcast. It's kind of a bonus episode on this Sunday in kind of standalone fashion. I recorded this podcast with myself and Robby Kalland talking about the Atlantic Division actually after the Central Division, but I'm running this one first, one a little bit longer, which is part of the reason why it's also effectively that bonus episode on this Sunday. So I'm just going to leave it alone. There it is. The top of the podcast, of course, the reigning champion Celtics. Then we'll get into two pretty clear contenders in Philadelphia and New York, and then the bottom of the division after that. But if you missed it, I've been talking about over-unders with Robby for the last couple of weeks. We're doing all 6 divisions. This is actually the 4th one that's going to run. And the 5th one, by the way, as a PSA, will be up in just a few hours talking about the Central Division, et cetera, et cetera. So please stay tuned for all of that. Please catch up on last week's podcast. It's been very busy in this space. We'll have more Hawks stuff coming up. There's a game on Monday, for instance, that I'll be at. So please stay tuned for all of that. Subscribe to the podcast. And here we go with myself and Robby talking about the Atlantic Division. I am back with Robby Kalland of DIME to continue our over-under series with a look at the Atlantic Division. Robby, how are you in the last 2 minutes since we stopped recording?
Fantastic.
I might run these back-to-back. We'll see. This is a little bit of behind-the-scenes on the podcast production work. But alas, here we are. The Atlantic is here. It's a very interesting division. In fact, it's probably the marquee division in the league this year, at least the top 3. The bottom 2, less so. But let's begin with the reigning champions. The Boston Celtics, 57.5 is the number at FanDuel. Last year, they won 64 games, and they were even better than that differential-wise. They were absolute they just killed everyone, basically, all year long.
Yep.
And they did basically nothing because they didn't have to. The only reason why this number is even where it is, I think, is because Porzingis is currently injured. But even then, what do you think about this? Because usually you and I would lean under on a number like this. I'm not there. I'll tell you that right now. What do you think?
This is lean over, almost play over. This team is just really good. I think they have more motivation than we usually see from a team that just won a championship. I don't feel like there's going to be a big hangover just with everything that happened this summer for their best players. Jason Tatum with the whole Olympic thing, Jaylen Brown not getting on the Olympic team. Plenty of reason for them to come out on fire again. And they're just better than everybody. Like, they just are, even without Porzingis. Like, they're just better. Like, Hawks legend Al Horford, still good at basketball.
I don't understand how it's happening with Al. And look, we love Al. Al is my age. This is going to be Al's age 38 season. The only reason I'm a little worried is that, like, they don't want to play. And, like, he's not going to play because they don't care.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla is a crazy person, which is a good thing, I think, in some respects. But, like, they're not going to suddenly play out 35 minutes a game. Like, he's going to play when he's going to play, but they'll figure it out because all these numbers,
Xavier Tillman, Luke Cornett. They have depth. Like, they recognize the problem with Porzingis. They recognized it at the deadline. They went out and they said, let's get Xavier Tillman as a nice, like, regular season backup option. I mean, that's what
Neemias Queta is on this team as well, I believe.
The big fella.
He's very large.
Legend.
Yeah, all these guys, and we don't have stats in front of us now, but, like, their bench guys had, like, obscene on-off splits, and not in the way that you would think for a team that had this incredible starting 5 or top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Their bench guys, from, like, Hauser to Cornette, they had and Pritchard, they have, like, plus 12 net ratings when they play. Like, it's not like they fall off a cliff when guys sit.
They mow down second units.
Yeah, and it's the math. They take more threes than anybody. They make threes. They've kind of gamed the system a little bit. Some of that's reduced without Porzingis, who's like the true X factor because he can bomb from 30 feet. I get that. But like, by the way, Porzingis only played, I think it was like 55 games last year.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he played 82 games.
Like he wasn't around a lot. Yeah.
57 games last year for Porzingis. And actually none of their top guys none of their top 6 guys played more than 74. Now 74 is a lot of games. But it wasn't like they played 82 each last year and they had this perfect storm. Like they just were, it didn't matter who played. They just beat everyone, and that'll happen again, I think. It's a high number. Like I don't love playing an over on 57.5 wins, but I wouldn't play the under. No chance.
Yep.
I like Boston. Breaking news. I like Boston.
They're in the striking tournaments, they're an extremely good basketball team.
I do think some of the motivation stuff is kind of funny, objectively, because since you brought it up. Like it's true. It's true what you're saying in that like the Jaylen Brown Olympic team thing was like pretty funny. Like I think it's very silly that he was mad about that, but he was. He's mad about it. He's motivated by it. Tatum didn't play on a team with the best players in the world, and that was apparently this grave insult, and that was taken that way. And all
and it was he didn't play. It was 2 games,
right? And by the way, he wasn't playing well.
John Stockton
wasn't playing. He wasn't
2 games
playing
or
well.
whatever in the dream team. Like this is what happens.
So I think to your point though, through a regular season lens, that can help them keep the fire, because there's always a little bit of doubt when you win a championship. Like, can you keep it up again? But the combination of Mazzulla's craziness, a bunch of vets that just only know how to play hard, like Derek White and Drew Holiday only know how to play hard. Like they're not going to suddenly nail it.
Yeah, you're not going to see like hungover Drew Holiday every night or something.
I don't think that's going to happen. And Al Horford, same thing. Like Al's going to show up and do Al things. There is some risk that he's just at some point becomes old. Like he's already kind of gotten to the old stage, but he's been good as an old guy. Maybe he falls off. There's a little bit of risk of that at 38 years old, but other than that, everybody else is in their prime. So maybe Drew's not, but Drew's 33, so that's okay. Anyway, we like Boston. Lean over. I wouldn't tell you to play it, but if you wanted to, I wouldn't yell at you.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and basketball is now here, of course, in full force, plus football and everything else going on. Begin the season right with a big return at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now you can find a lot of different information sets at FanDuel, from the latest stats to live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets at FanDuel Sportsbook. You also can start with a great offer from FanDuel right now, and that's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. You should also know right now that the app at FanDuel Sportsbook is really easy to use. They have everything that you need across the sports betting space, from over-unders to point spreads to money lines, player props, future bets, live betting, same-game parlays, and so much more. The app is safe. It's secure. They cover the entire range of sports as well. NBA is at the forefront, of course, on this podcast. WNBA, NFL, college football, MLB. They have golf and tennis. They have hockey. They have soccer, auto racing, boxing, MMA, and so much more. And now is an awesome time to sign up with the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. The place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. You get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. One more time, visit FanDuel.com and check out America's #1 sportsbook.
The next 2 teams are the teams that made, let's say, pretty big moves in the offseason. Boston was status quo. Philly and New York are not. So New York is #2 on the projection list at FanDuel. 53.5 wins, juiced to the over, which is a big endorsement of this team. They won a lot of games last year, 50 games. They had a pretty major overhaul, of course. I'm glad we held this podcast because we were going to record this maybe earlier, and it was pre-cat trade. Now we can react to the cat trade. We did talk about Minnesota pre-cat trade, but that's okay. While we're here, they bring in Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns, and they get a full season of OG Anunoby after he was added late. But they lose a lot of depth. Randall, Dante, Hartenstein, Boyan, Alec Burks. They don't have a lot of depth, man. And for me, it is really scary. It's the opposite of Boston. Boston has depth. New York does not have depth. And for me, that's I'm not telling you have to bet the under, but I will not bet an over on a team with no depth in the regular season. I won't do it, and I won't do it here.
Yep. Yeah. When I had like an actual over before the cat trade, and it's funny because I think their ceiling's higher after the cat trade. I firmly believe that, but I don't want any part of it after the cat trade. And I was already concerned about the front court rotation, but I kind of thought they could figure it out. And I think this helps the front court rotation. And now it's like, now the back court has just like they're 1 or 2 injuries away from some real question marks back there. Like DiVincenzo was phenomenal for them last year. And losing him matters. Like I like Deuce McBride. I think he's going to have a really solid year, but like, it's just, they're 7-8 deep that you trust.
Oh, if that. I mean, yeah. I mean, Mitchell Robinson is currently hurt, and he is their 7th.
Right. So it's tough.
It's
and this
pretty rough. I mean,
it's a Tibbs team. So
right, which means a lot of minutes, and they have some guys who have. No, Mikal Bridges is kind of famously an Iron Man. He doesn't miss games.
Yeah.
But OG's had some injury issues. OG's had some injury issues. Yes. Towns, while early in his career, didn't have any, but has had some the last couple of years. Like he's starting to get banged up. He's 7 foot big. Like Brunson's not like indestructible. Like they have some guys who have some injury questions, and Tibbs going to play those guys a ton.
Yeah,
and maybe that will work to their benefit. Like if they stay healthy,
they could.
It's probably an over.
Yeah, 100%.
But I just don't want to bet on that when you don't have anything. I mean, I don't want to like. I'm not picking on Tyler Kolek or Jericho Sims or Precious Achua or Cam Payne, but like those guys are not what you want on a team that's trying to win 55 games.
No,
as you're like 8 through 10 or 8 through 11 guys. Maybe Landry Shamet gets it figured out there. He's on Exhibit 10 contract. I like him. He might help them, but man, we're pretty deep in the barrel for a team that's trying to win. So I won't go over. For me, it's a stay away. It's a stay away. I won't play this either way.
Like you said, like I can see the world where this is a 57 win team.
Definitely.
Like just a fantastic. I love that starting 5.
Sure.
If Mitchell Robinson gets healthy, I think they have a really good top 7. I think if they can be healthy for the playoffs, which is the biggest if in the world, because they have to get there. And they have to have Tibbs get them there healthy. Like that top 7 can compete with anybody. And when you get to the playoffs and you really shorten those rotations, like that top 7 can roll with anybody.
Oh yeah,
but
it's also offense first team now. Like very clearly, like when you're playing Brunson and Cat as your 1 and 5. I understand how good the 2-3-4 are defensively. Maybe if Mikal gets back to where he used to be, Hart's really good. But like if you're playing Brunson and Cat, you are not going to be a great defense. You're just not. I'm sorry. I don't see that. So they're going to score in bunches if everybody's there, but it's weird. It's a weird Tibbs team. It's a weird Tibbs team to be like, hey,
really weird Tibbs team.
They're betting on offensive ceiling.
Stay away, and I don't even know what I lean anymore. Maybe over.
I think I would probably lean under personally.
Yeah,
but still,
so many ways this could go. Like 50 wins, is.
Well, and Dante, not to go down the train rabbit hole, but Dante was really good for them. Like sneakily, people don't really realize that.
He played 82 last year?
He played every game. He bombed threes all year long. Secondary ball handler for them. They don't really have that anymore. I mean, I know Mikal can do that a little bit, obviously. He did it in previous spots. But you get a Brunson injury, they're not well suited for that anymore. Like, it was easier for them previous to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deuce is still more of a combo off-ball player on offense. Yeah. So, anyway, I would not play this. But a good team for sure. Fascinating team, to your point.
Yeah.
The other team that made the big overhaul, Philly. Philly is 51.5 at FanDuel right now. They won 47 games last year, but Embiid played only 39 games.
Yep.
I have the stat for you, Robbie. They were 31-8 with Embiid and 16-27 without Embiid. The entire evaluation might be how many games does Embiid play? But even before that, you bring in a lot of different guys. Paul George, headline, of course, Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Gershon Yabusele, Olympic legend, and first-round pick of Jerry McCain. But you also lose a lot of guys, too. You lose Nick Batum, D'Anthony Melton, Buddy Hield, Paul Reed. Like, it's a total overhaul in a way that you don't often see for a good team. Like, they just turned over half their roster, more than half their roster.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this team.
Well, is it being healthy? It's the only question. It really is.
Yeah.
Good luck. I don't know. Neither do you. You have no idea on that.
No, there's no idea, man. Like,
okay, I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
Are they better suited now to hold up when Embiid misses time?
Not if, when.
I would think so to a degree, just because in theory, Paul George should do what Tobias Harris couldn't. Like, Paul George should give you a secondary high-end offensive option next to Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is unbelievably good. Like, that dude just keeps getting every year. Like, if Paul George, and again, if Paul George can stay healthy, also it's own question. But
not a lock by any means.
If Paul George is healthy when Embiid isn't healthy, they are better. Like, they are a much better team, better because like that was always the thing. Is it was like, all right, Tobias, like, we need you to be more, and like Tobias is just going to score 15, 16 points. Like, that's just
there were too many games where if he's your third option, you're cooked. Or second option if Embiid's hurt, you know what I mean?
Second option was especially bad. But
like, I'm looking at their stats, by the way. Like, you know, Maxey and Harris played 70 games. Uber was good for them last year, really but they had a lot of guys miss a lot of time too. Melton missed Melton missed half the season.
Yeah.
You know, Lowry came in late. He's still there, but how much do you want to rely on 38-year-old Kyle Lowry? I don't really know.
Yep.
You know, Buddy Hield was a late addition. Batum was really good for them. They're going to miss Batum.
Yes.
I'll say that. But you do have some connectors they brought in. So I almost don't want to even look at last year. It's just the on-off splits, no matter who has been there for Embiid's entire prime, have basically been, if he's on the court, they're awesome. If he's not, they're bad. And like, maybe this is the different for the first time because they do have more talent than they've ever had. But the only thing about this is if you could even guarantee me 55 games for Embiid, I would probably bet the over. But I don't know if I bank on that even. And that's a low bar to clear, but he just doesn't. It's Embiid. He's just always hurt. And it sucks. Like, he's great when he's playing, but he's not always out there.
I mean, he is. If he plays 65 games, like, he's probably the
over
MVP.
Oh, last year he was the permanent. So as good as Jokic was, as good as Jokic was, I think if he had just look, you can't assume this would have happened because it's a small sample size. But if he had taken his per game numbers and played even the like, to your point, the very minimum game, 65,
he wins.
He probably wins it. He averaged 35 and 11 last year.
He was outrageous.
On the best, he averaged more points than minutes last year, which was being tracked. He did that for the season, and he did it on his, I believe, like either second best or best efficiency ever. Yeah. Like, he was absurd last year, career high assist rate, all these things. So he's not. I'm not worried about Embiid when he's playing. He's going to be good. It's just 39 game season. He's getting older too. He's 30 now. Like, you look up, and you and I are old. Like, Joel Embiid's 30.
Yeah. I don't. This is like, them and the Knicks are just the most stay away. But I can't wait to watch them. Like, I'm really excited to watch these teams. Like, these are the most. I think they are the two most interesting teams in the league. Just because the variance is so high, which is why I have no interest in betting them. Like, these are teams that have high 50 win potential and also could be mild disasters if the wrong things happen.
Yeah.
And so but I do think like, again, like Tyrese Maxey all NBA. I think
not
that
a bad
happens.
bet. So to round out this little mini segment of these two teams, I think I would say at their number, because by the way, again, right now, New York is 53.5, Philly's 51.5.
Yeah.
If you made me choose on both of them, again, we just said stay away. I would lean under on the Knicks and over on the Sixers, personally. And when I say lean, I mean barely even lean. Like, if you made me choose one side of the other, I would go under on the Knicks, over on the Sixers. But I'm not comfortable with that. And part of that's literally, if it was the same number, I don't know which I would do. But just the fact that New York's number is two wins higher.
Yeah, 2-win gap. I think that's probably fair. I think I default to leaning under on both, but I don't want any part of it.
Yeah, that's fine. I get that. And the only reason why I'm even going over on Philly is that they have a lot more depth.
They do
than New York does.
A
lot more.
Some of it's like guys I don't like. I'm not a Caleb Martin guy. I know you're not a Caleb Martin guy. Really.
I'm not either, but that was cheap enough where it actually made total sense. Like, he's going to help them.
It makes sense. It makes sense, but it's it's like in the context of when guys are healthy, he's helpful. Like, he is a guy that helps them win. But, like, if he has to have an expanded role, I don't think he's like.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and
what
so
is
it's
Eric,
like,
what is Eric Gordon in
I feel the same
2024?
way about Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon, because here's the part of the problem is Eric Gordon still thinks Eric Gordon is
he's Eric Gordon,
like a borderline all-star, and it's like, you're not. But, you know, like, I think that's part of my concern is like Reggie Jackson theoretically could be okay, but it's like, it seems like they have a lot of guys that probably think a little higher of what they should be. And like, that's always an interesting thing for like Nick Nurse to navigate is ego management. And it's not the egos of his stars. And I think it's even harder to manage egos when it's guys down.
When it's not your stars. Well, I mean, and they did a great job with Oubre last year. Like, I was kind of out on Kelly Oubre last year. He was very good. They got him for nothing, which worked out great for them.
Yes.
But
because they could keep him.
So maybe that's a good data point for Nick Nurse is that he was able to kind of figure it out with Kelly Oubre and put him in good spots. But
they also needed Oubre. Oubre was like their third guy.
Yeah,
for like,
he had to play a lot last year. Now he doesn't have to play as much. We'll see if that goes well in year two.
I'm fascinated by these teams, but yeah,
agreed. Yabusele, like, I don't know if he's I don't know what that is. I understand the buy after the Olympics. He's an interesting player, but I don't know if that's going to translate at all.
Yeah,
TBD. All right, Robbie, let us go to the bottom of the Atlantic. Well, this is more of a middle, I guess. Toronto is the fourth team. 29.5 is the current number at FanDuel for Toronto. I got to say, doing my research for this, they were worse than I remembered last year.
Yeah. Yes.
They won 25 games last year, and it wasn't like outlier unluckiness. They were actually that bad. They were bad on both ends of the floor, honestly. And they didn't do much to add to the team. Like, they made the big midseason trades. They traded Siakam and Anunoby. They now have Quickly and Barrett and those guys. But they lost Gary Trent Jr., who wasn't great for them, but is better than the guys they replaced him with. They brought in Bruno Fernando, Hawks legend, love Bruno, and Davion Mitchell's on this team, and then rookies basically. Jacoby Walter's already hurt, etc. So this is a modest projection for them. I think they're getting the benefit of people understanding that below the Hawks, there's no one good. So somebody kind of has to be, in theory, decent as a 10 seed. And people are picking Toronto. I got to say, Robbie, this is one of my better bets on the board. I am under on Toronto. Under.
That's all caps on my board. Under. We're relying on this play it. You mentioned somebody below the Hawks has to be better. I already picked the Pistons to be that team. So
you did. And maybe it's the Hornets too. I will say this: if you line up the Raptors, and we'll get to the Southeast. I like the the Hornets more than the Raptors.
That's fair. I don't really like either, but
I'm not saying I like either one. Again, it's dire. After the Hawks, it is ugly. But
yeah, no,
I don't like the Raptors.
Toronto is a clean under for me. Neither of us are at the high end of the Scotty Barnes hype train.
That's accurate. Even if he's not the guy I'm worried about on this team,
we are not.
He's fine.
But here's the thing: I don't think it's good if you are building around Scotty Barnes as your best player.
I agree.
I don't really. And here's part of my issue: we have seen OG leave and be better. We have seen Pascal leave and be better. Scotty, I don't think he necessarily plays as well with others as you would like. It's all it's not. He's a good player. I don't want to come here and be like Scotty's garbage, but like,
no, he's not.
Good player. I'm not the all-star thing. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not like he's like I don't see him as like he's like fringe all-star, which probably isn't great as your number one. That's where I'm at. And then on top of that, like I like Emmanuel Quickly. He's a solid player. They gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, he's good.
Which
he's a good player.
He's a solid player. RJ Barrett was better last year.
The son of Canada, RJ Barrett.
Son of Canada, RJ Barrett. He was good. He was pretty good for them, but like not in like an impacting winning way.
So on this front, actually,
I'm trying to kind of tiptoe because like Toronto fans scare me a little bit.
I know, I agree. We know some people that are Raptors fans. It's fine.
I love some of them.
It's true. You're talking about the top guys on the team. As much as you're right, I am not the biggest Barnes fan. That's not even the reason necessarily I'm worried. Although
they have no depth. They have no depth.
That's where I was going. So there are, and I'm not exaggerating here when I say this. They have a top 4, and the 4th is Jakob Poeltl, who's just like an okay center. Like, he's fine.
Well, but after Bruce Brown.
I mean, Bruce Brown is already hurt. I like Bruce Brown a lot.
And they probably would trade him at the deadline if they could get anything for him.
They almost declined his option. Yeah. They thought about declining his option. And here, I'm just going to list some guys that they're having to choose a rotation of. So, Kelly Olynyk is a fine player. He's older now. He can't defend. Ochai Agbaji is a key piece of this team. Rookie Jacoby Walter
has not been good.
Rookies are almost always bad. Walter is already hurt. Grady Dick, I like. Maybe he's going to help them this year, but is he your 5th starter? I don't know if that's going to happen in year 2.
I think he might have to be because they need somebody that can shoot the basketball. They don't have anybody that can shoot the basketball.
It's either him or Agbaji will be their 5th starter. I don't know which one. Davion Mitchell, I've never bought it, and it's never been good in the NBA. His on-ball defense is interesting, but that's kind of it.
That's it.
Chris Boucher. They don't have – I mean, Bruno Fernando is on an Exhibit 10 for them. Like, they don't have anybody, man. Their depth is brutal. Like, it's brutal. If anything happens to any of their top guys, it's not good enough. And even if they're healthy, I'm not sure it's good enough. Like, their 7th and 8th guys are as bad as any 7th and 8th guys in the league.
Yeah.
I don't buy
their starting 5 as like
that's what I mean.
Play as a really like a 35 plus win starting 5 right now, and they don't have depth. And
it's like the Knicks. So the Knicks have no depth. So on this episode, we talk about the Knicks, right? The Knicks have no depth, but the Knicks have 4, 5, 6 like very, 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 very good players,
right?
And that helps.
New York's starting 5 is probably one of the 3 best starting 5s in the NBA.
Correct.
I think it's Boston and OKC.
And depth is a concern for them. It really is. But Toronto has neither. Toronto has a starting lineup of a team that I would say, to your point, is like a 30-ish win team. Sure. And then you throw in really bad depth, and it's like, what are we doing here? So the only way. So how are we wrong? I'll ask you this: is it Scotty takes the leap? Is it Barrett is suddenly the guy he was supposed to be 5 years ago? Like how are we going to lose this? I'm actually asking you.
They have to be insanely healthy. They have to turn Bruce Brown into 2 rotation players. Which won't happen. No. Everybody's got to be healthy. Scotty has to be better than we think he is, which maybe he will. Like, that is in play, and that'd be cool. Like, again, like, I'm not like, part of it for me is I hope the guys that I'm kind of down on are better than I think they are. Like, that's always good. I like when the league is better. The more fun to watch. So hopefully Scotty Barnes in my eye hole, like, just is just 25, 8 and 8 on good efficiency. Maybe that's just there. He's got, I'll say this, not really the same, like, the excuses of like he's kind of boxed in by OG and Pascal gone. So like,
yep,
it's time. Your team.
But do they have enough shooting around them? I don't think
there's
so.
No shooting. Like, Quickly is a solid shooter. But it's a lot of like, he's got to kind of create for himself with regards to that shooting. And then everybody else, like Grady Dick better be, here's the thing, Grady Dick better be awesome.
Yeah, that is maybe one of the ways we lose this is if Grady Dick is like quite good as a second-year player.
Grady Dick takes a big leap, and Agbaji becomes something he hasn't been yet, which is an NBA player.
I think he's fine, but like, you're right.
But the thing is, he hasn't been able to shoot, and that was his skill. Is like, he just hasn't been a good shooter, and like, some of that maybe it's circumstance, like Cleveland not a lot of opportunity, Utah kind of a catastrophe. Like, now he's in Toronto where it's not been great, but like,
yeah, he's a career
32% 3-point shooter,
It's
which is
been
not what
bad,
he
dude. No, he was supposed to come in. That was his skill. And like, he can't knock down threes. So maybe he figures it out. That's it. Under. It's just under.
We are. I think people listen. People. Yes, agreed. I. It'd be nice if we were wrong. And look, there is the upside. There is that they had their own pick this year. They're getting some stuff from the. They got some stuff already from the Pascal trade. They had their pick this year. Right. They. It's but they. You could say that if they, and I will say, one of the reasons why I'm even firmer on the under, and we'll move on, is if things don't go well, they don't have any incentive to keep trying to win at the end of the season. And we saw in the Tampa year, granted it was in Tampa, it was a tough situation. They did lean into the tank at the end of that season to end up with Scotty Barnes. Masai was willing to do it. They pulled the plug that year. It was the right decision. It worked out really well for them. But if it gets to that point again, if they're not the 10 seed in February, they should pull the plug.
And I think they will. And like,
I think they will too. So that's why that's another reason why I like it.
And that's the other thing. It's like, I guess the helpful thing, if you are going to bet, if you are just a believer and you think it's the over, the one thing that helps them is, even if they're bad, the 10 seed could be within reach. That's the other thing. Like if they decide, but the thing is, it's like, would they be like, do we want to be a 32 win 10 seed?
I can't imagine them buying though at the deadline.
No, and I don't think they will, but I'm just saying, like, even if after the deadline, they just stand pat. Let's say there's nothing out there for Bruce Brown. They're playing okay. They're on pace for 32 wins at the deadline. They're in 10th. Would they say, this is what we want to be? Or would they still say,
well, we shut down Jakob Pearl or whatever you want to do? Yeah.
Like RJ.
All right. Well,
it's under. It's under.
It's an under. We'll leave it there. One more team to get to on this one. It's the Brooklyn Nets. So the Brooklyn Nets, I will say in 5 years ago, Robbie, we would have been able to bet the under heavily on the Brooklyn Nets without having to worry about it, because the number would have been like 26.5. They would have been wrong on the Nets.
Correct.
This year they're getting ahead of it. So FanDuel has the Nets at 19.5 wins. That is the lowest figure in the NBA.
Yep.
Despite winning 32 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
They changed coaches twice in the last year. They had a Kevin Ollie interim, and that changed again now.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that happened. They lose Mikal Bridges, who played all 82 for them last year. All 82. And they bring in a lot of guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, who's currently hurt on this team, Shake Milton, Zaire Williams. Like, they're not trying to win, very obviously.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of Cam Thomas and
baby.
Ben Simmons. They're trying to do it again. I don't know, man. And I'm gonna throw it to you in a second. One thing I want to make sure that I don't forget to say: they have 4 guys who are theoretical rotation players for them on expiring contracts, and they're going to trade all of them if they can. And those 4 guys are Ben Simmons, Dorian Finney-Smith, our guy Dennis Schroeder, and Bojan Bogdanovic. They're also 4 of their top 7 or 8 players on the team. So there's a chance that they start off okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say okay, like not good, but okay-ish, they're gonna sell almost certainly. Like they're gonna. Why is Dorian Finney-Smith on the Nets in February? The answer is he's not going to be. I don't think. Because why?
Nope.
He should be on a good team. That's the whole appeal of Dorian Finney-Smith is that he should be like a 5th starter on a good team. This is a bad team. So anyway, that's a long preamble. Man, they're going to be awful, but this number is so low. It's low,
and we're holding our nose and we're taking it under.
Oh baby, you're going
under
19.5. Oh my gosh.
Here's the thing about it. This used to be a preposterous number for somebody. It didn't used to get this bad. We've seen teams under this number each of the last 5 years, dude. Like, this is just that is fair. Last year there were 2 teams under this. It was Washington and Detroit. And they were comfortably under this. Yeah, this is just what happens with bad teams now. Like, there is and here's why. The play-in has given us 20 to 22 teams trying every year. You know?
At least.
And so when you have 22 teams trying instead of 17 teams trying. The teams that there's fewer teams that pull the ripcord, which means there's fewer difficult losses out there for those teams. Like here's the thing: if you can get me to the All-Star break at under 14 wins, I think this hits. I don't think they win 5 games after the All-Star break.
Yeah, that would follow the template. So last year, I don't have it in front of me, but I know there were a handful of teams last year that went like 4-25 after the All-Star break because they wanted to.
That's what they do. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Utah's done it. Portland's done it. Charlotte, Washington, like all these teams are like, it's all capable of doing it. So if you can get me, and that's an insane thing. Like if you can get me to the All-Star break at 14, which includes that like potential for them starting 7-15, and you're like, ooh, like get me there under 14 wins. I think this hits. I think this is the worst team in the league, and they're going to be worse.
It's going to be bad. I will grant this. If all you do is look at the depth chart with any context, it's better than this.
Oh,
it's better than 19.5 wins,
100%.
right? So that's why we're giving all the context. That's why I start with the context, because it is better than that. But when you factor in that they don't have any depth, like for right now, Nick Claxton is slow to ramp up. He'll be fine. They could trade Nick Claxton this year. That could happen. They're not married to Nick Claxton. They know they paid him, but not like a crazy amount. Their backup center, Day'Ron Sharpe, is already hurt. After that, they have Noah Clowney, who's a big question mark. Like Dorian Finney-Smith and Ben Simmons. Look, all joking aside, if you're banking on Ben Simmons, and I'm not saying the team is, I'm saying if you are, you cannot bank on Ben Simmons. Am I telling you there's no chance that he's a good player again? No. But you cannot, until you see it, assume he's going to be good and play.
Yep.
Cam Johnson is their safest player, but like he's fine. He's a good player, but like he's not a best player. I don't know.
Ben Simmons, is there a worse context for Ben Simmons than this basketball team?
No. Like the only reason why
Ben
it might
Simmons'
be okay,
whole thing is like augmenting talent.
He has to have the ball too. Like no, the only reason why this might be okay for Ben Simmons is because it's going to be so bad that maybe they can experiment with him. Like they have a new head coach. Maybe they just like, all right, Ben, we want to make sure that you get your life back, your career back on track, and we're going to try to make it easier for you by building it around you a little bit. That could happen. But you're going to win games.
No, that's not a winning formula.
Right. And Cam Thomas, I know there are Cam Thomas believers. Look, I will raise my hand. I am predisposed to not liking Cam Thomas. Like he's the kind of player I don't like, which is fine. He is good at it. He can score. He is a professional basketball player who can score.
Buckets.
But like, is he going to lead? I mean, he's going to win a couple games by himself. I'll say that. He'll have a couple 40-point games where he goes crazy. Mm-hmm. They win a couple games. Mm-hmm. But like their backup point guard
25 on 27 shots nights, and I can't wait.
I'm looking at their roster right now, Robbie. I'm going to make sure this is right. I don't believe they have a second point guard on their team. It's Dennis Schroeder, and I don't believe they have another guy.
Ben Simmons.
I think it is Ben Simmons. I think it is Ben Simmons. Like they have Ben Simmons. You could say that like Cam Thomas can handle the ball some, sure.
It's not going to anybody else, but he can handle the ball.
Oh! You know what I just realized? Who's on Exhibit 10 for the Brooklyn Nets?
Who?
Tank Commander Killian Hayes is on Brooklyn Nets.
Oh my God! Under no one wins 14 games a season like Killian Hayes.
I can't give it out, but I would lean under. I wouldn't bet the over with your money. It's so low, man. It's so low. But
low, but somebody's gonna hit it, and why not?
Somebody's going to. I don't know. I don't know for sure. It's going to be Brooklyn.
Why not?
There have been some bad teams that have won 21 games in recent years. So like, it's not like they can't get there. But man, this is so grim. And I think Sean Marks understands the deal here, and there's no reason for them to win games at the end of the season. And that's
and here's part of it for me. Part of the other reason. I think this year is going to feature some strong competition in the tank realm, and that always
in a great draft.
And I think we're waving the white flag. We're, whatever for Ace Bailey. I don't know if we got anything there yet. Fall behind the pace for Ace. That's not very good. I'll come up with something better.
It's just too long.
It's too long.
I'm with you. It works though.
We got to get fine. But yeah, like there's this class is too good, and I think part of it is I only really identify like 6 teams that are going to be in the hunt, but I think all 5 or 6 are going to be fairly aggressively in the hunt. And like, yeah, I think there's like 5 teams that are going to be chasing that bottom 3, and I think that pushes Brooklyn to move pretty fast because it's clear this is what we want to do. Like, you don't make the trades they did this summer to actively get your own picks back.
Yeah, which they did. Which we should note that they literally went out and intentionally traded for their own picks back for this reason, to tank this year, basically. So yeah, Brooklyn.
You don't mess that up. You don't mess that up by going 25 wins.
Brooklyn, Utah, Portland, Washington.
Yep,
that's kind of what you're looking at.
Those 4 for sure, and I think you might get Detroit back in there. You could get Chicago in there. Like there are teams that might go down there. Charlotte might get down there. Toronto might get down there. Like there are 7 or 8 teams that could be. I think there's 4 for sure, and then there's 3 contenders.
Yeah, but Brooklyn again has the lowest. The fact that they have a lower over/under than Washington, who we'll get to on the Southeast, Washington is going to be awful too. Awful. So Brooklyn's
preview, but
yeah, probably under on that one. Brooklyn is going to be the fact that they're worse. I admire the spunk of the odds makers to put them below Washington. It's like, man, we are making a statement right now with Brooklyn.
You know what? Here's what I'll do. Like, salute to them for realizing what happens now.
You throw a 1. You throw a 1 in front of an over/under. It's like, all right, man, I'm all set.
Here's the thing, because you're right. Because when we used to do this 5 years ago, we didn't get these. This would have been 24, and we would have.
It would have been an auto play under on a couple of these teams because it would have been like you said, 23.5. Like, all right, under, we're good, we're done. 19.5 is so low that they are begging you to take the over, begging,
and I won't do it.
And Robby doing the Shannon Sharp head shake right there. It's refusing to take the under on the Nets. That's a great way to end the podcast. Oh, Robby. Okay. I'm losing it. Okay. Thank you for being here, my friend. We do have one more left. It'll be the one that we say for the end on purpose, the Southeast. It includes the Hawks. That's coming. Anything else you want to plug on the way out, my friend? Please share. Go ahead.
We got preview stuff going up on Dime, dimemag.com. You can follow me at our Kalland. Puntcast, wherever you listen to Locked On Hawks, but listen to Locked On Hawks first. First listen every morning.
Listen each and every day. That's right. And, you're on board.
Listen, I know what we're doing.
It's been a pleasure.
All the things that you say.
Oh man, the Nets. Okay, that's enough for us. Thank you for being here, everybody. Please subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Please like the video as you're watching it. That's very helpful as well. Comments, etc. And we'll see you all next time.